قناة فلذاتنا.
سبحانك ربي يا رحمن، يا من كرمت بني الإنسان، وجعلت الأسرة تجمعنا وتقينا من لفح الحرمان. إن قام الأب بتربية للروح وأيضا للأبدان، وزرع الخير بأبناء وأسس ذياك البنيان، فسيحصد من ذلك خيرا وسيهزم أجناد الشيطان، ويؤسس بيتا للتقوى ويؤيد من رب منان، ويعامل زوجا بالحسنى ويعمر بيتا بالإحسان.
قناة فلذاتنا.
ويحفظ للأخت محبة، فالأخت كأنفاس الريحان، ويشد بكف لأخيه كي يقفا في وجه الطوفان. أسرتنا يا نعمة ربي، يا وردا أزهر في البستان، يا قارب خير يحمينا إن عصفت أمواج الخلجان. إن عاشت أسرتنا بشرع سنكون معا في بر أمان، سنكون معا في بر أمان.
قناة فلذاتنا.
Critical thinking skills are an important aspect of 21st century skills and an essential element in inquiry-based learning. You might be familiar with this quote by Benjamin Franklin. "Tell me, and I forget. Teach me, and I may remember. Involve me, and I learn." This is a good description of critical thinking skills and inquiry-based learning. Students are involved by thinking more deeply about what they're learning. They use higher-order thinking skills. They solve problems, brainstorm, compare and contrast, categorize, and seek out patterns. In your lessons, you can involve your students more by using critical thinking strategies. Your students need opportunities to ask questions and express their opinions. As students develop critical thinking skills, students will become more aware of the language they're learning. Let me give you a few examples of simple ways you can nurture an inquiry-based classroom and build critical thinking skills. First of all, you can help your students by wondering out loud. You are modeling a critical thinking strategy and inquiry-based learning. For example, this is a beanbag I use in my classroom for games. After we finished playing the game, I shook it, saying, "I wonder what's inside this beanbag." One student asked if she could listen to the sound. The students passed it around, taking turns to look at it. They felt the beanbag, trying to see if they could feel beans, beads, or something else. They talked about what they noticed and expressed their opinions. Secondly, help students make connections. Students can think about how things they are learning are similar to each other. For example, in a list of words, how are these words the same? Students can also connect to their personal experience. In this story, how is the main character like you? Thirdly, you can use new vocabulary in context. Encourage students to ask questions about new words. Help them to figure out the meaning of a new word from the words around it. Learning the meaning of words in context is a real critical thinking problem we all experience. By incorporating critical thinking skills into your lessons, students will be more involved in their learning. Critical thinking skills, speaking about the big picture. Pictures are a great way to get your students to speak. They provide a lot of information, and each student will participate at their own level. First of all, Show your students a picture related to a topic they have learned about or are going to learn about. Give them 30 seconds to write any information they see on the picture. For example, in this case, they are in the garden, or it's a party. After 30 seconds, hide the picture. In pairs, ask them to look at each other's information. Tell them they get 1 point for every piece of information that's true, and 3 points if the information is true and the other student hasn't written it. Then, ask them to count up their points. They cannot read each other's sentences. They must say them. Otherwise, no points. Now that the students understand the activity, tell them you will give them 1 minute to look at the picture again. After 1 minute, hide the picture and ask them to compare their information again, counting up the points. Finally, you can do it as a whole class activity. In this case, they still get 1 point for each true sentence, and 3 points if no one in the class said the sentence. In this activity, each student focuses on the information they can say in English. Thus, each student participates at their own level. Since they have to say the sentence in order to get a point, they speak to a friend rather than the whole class, which is comfortable. As they understand the activity, they try to remember more specific information, developing their memory and concentration skills. It's interesting when student sentences are based on their opinions. This can create a good discussion and get students interested in the picture and the topic. This activity with pictures will develop your students' ability to notice details as they try to remember more specific information. Eventually, students will move to sentences that are their opinions about the picture. Both noticing and giving opinions are two very important critical thinking skills. In my teacher training sessions, I always tell teachers that teaching should not be a secret. It's important to share with students why you're doing a particular activity in a particular order. This is especially true when developing students' reading skills. Each student reads at a different pace and focuses on varied aspects of a reading text. In a language class with students of mixed abilities, students will understand different parts of a text. To help students develop their reading skills, I follow a sequence and tell them what I am doing. First of all, tell them it is important to have an idea of a text before they start reading. Let's take this text as an example. Show the pictures to the students one by one and briefly discuss what they think the text is about. Then show them the title for the text and continue the discussion. Finally, take some words or sentences from the text. Give students time to read them and then continue the discussion. It's not important at this point if the discussion agrees with the topic of the text. The aim here is to build interest in reading the text. You may also want to ask them one question about the text. This will help them focus and strengthen their reason to read. Make sure the answer to the question appears toward the end of the text. Now tell your students you will give them 1 minute to scan the text to confirm the information and answer the question. When the minute is over, ask them to close their books and confirm that everyone does. If your students are like mine, they'll probably feel pressured. They didn't have enough time to find the answers. Talk to them about the purpose of this activity to help them develop their abilities to scan for information quickly. Ask them what they found out. They'll be surprised how much they read in a short time. Praise them for it. Your course book will probably provide you with a few comprehension exercises for the reading text. Follow these, giving your students enough time to finish them. This will balance the pressure of the previous activity for scanning. In classes with many students of mixed ability, you may need to provide your students with more work on the text. Try this. Ask your students to go back to the text and copy 2 sentences from the text into their notebooks. Then tell them to make 1 sentence false by changing 1 or 2 words. Ask a student to say the sentence to the class. The class listens if it's true or false. If they disagree, they should read the text again for the information. The student who wrote the sentence has the final say.